The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Arcane Wonders and Tasty Minstrel Games. Check out all their awesome titles at arcanewonders.com and playtmg.com.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes break down the Spiel and Kennerspiele fields after having played them all. Then they take a look back at Food Chain Magnate in their Dukes Double-Take. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
And without comment, I shall continue. This is episode 152.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Sean. Happy birthday to you. Hey guys, Sean turns 40 this year.
That's untrue.
Okay.
And I feel like that's a little ageist to say.
It's not ageist, it's just a number.
I'm not 40. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I turned 36. And it was a couple days after we got back from Dice Tower Con.
You are now officially closer to 40 than to 30.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was kind of a low-key birthday, which is exactly what I wanted after getting back from Dice Tower Con. In fact, since we've been going to Dice Tower Con, my birthdays have been right after, so I've kind of been exhausted.
Nice.
Yeah. All of my presents this year were video games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I got Star Wars Battlefront. My brother got me Skyrim. I got like a new Xbox controller because one of ours was kind of on the fritz. But anyway, yeah, we had a good time Wednesday night. We missed you, Alex.
I was in LA for the ESPYs.
Yeah, because you're a jet setter.
I felt quite out of place.
Yeah.
Like really out of place there. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, glad to be back.
Glad to be back. Or glad to have you back. I'm glad to be back because I'm back recording again from last week and from Florida. So that worked. I stand by my statement. Hey, this is episode 152, which we're calling Happy Meal de Jahres. Happy Meal de Jahres, thanks to Steve O'Rourke, the name father. And Steve, I got to tell you, this almost didn't happen. But as always, I'm here. I've got your back. And Alex, well, we'll talk about it later when we do the rest of the top six for naming the episode.
But clever title there. You have Food Chain Magnate mixed in with the Spiel des Jahres, which we will be both of the topics for today. That is, by the way, the name father's 11th episode naming.
We did the math. He has named 12%. Since we've been naming episodes with the Guild's help, he's named 12% of them. That is huge. By the way, if you want to get in on that craziness that is the naming contest, which is just for bragging rights, head on over to Board Game Geek Guild number 2008. That's where every week we post our Dukes on deck, where you can contribute to the games we're talking about and discussion topic, etc. So be sure to do that.
Yes, indeed. A few other bits of show business. By the time you are hearing this, you will be hearing the newest Patreon interview episode, assuming you chose to download and play it. It's with Alexander Pfister, just in time for the Spiel and Kennerspiele, the two-time defending Kennerspiele champ, giving up his crown to some game that you'll know about that we don't exactly know about, but we'll discuss. Also, just got an interview last week with Chris Cluey, or this week.
It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter because you won't be hearing that one for a little while. But thanks to our folks on Patreon for supporting that. We are now calling those Holding Court, which seemed like an appropriate enough name, referencing kind of the Dukes.
Was that finalized?
I finalized it.
Oh, well, I mean, I know.
It's my thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's in the episode. You're editing, so I would hope you'd heard that.
Was it?
Yeah.
And the Chris Cluey one?
You haven't heard that? Okay.
No.
You won't hear that in the Pfister one because I hadn't decided that by then.
Okay.
Anyway, this is all very inside baseball. But Sean, we also have some new Patreon folks to welcome into the fold.
We sure do. So want to give a big shout out to some brand new knights. We have Pacemaker. We have William Kirkwood, Adrian Dong, Evan Scussel, sorry, Evan, and Barry Peterson. So I want to welcome all those folks over there. I'm going to be sending you out an invite so you can join our Patreon exclusive Slack channel, where there's lots of awesome discussion going on over there. Mostly thanks to Matthew's involvement. I've been really busy getting ready to leave for cons and then getting caught up from cons, but I'm going to try and make a better effort to be more involved in the Slack channel.
You sure have had a very full plate.
Yeah. What's your excuse, Alex?
My excuse? I don't have a good one. Although, unemployed Duke Alex, maybe no more? We'll see. Without getting into any specifics or jinxing it, I am in talks with a board game publisher that would have me working full-time in a marketing job.
Is it Splatterspellen?
It's definitely not. It's definitely not, which, by the way, will have us rethinking policies of how we'd handle games from that publisher.
Oh, yeah.
So, we'll talk more about that if that becomes a thing. If. I'm not counting my chickens before they have hatched into beautiful little chicklets.
Okay.
I don't think that's what they're called. Anyway, and then I'll just give a hint. We have our 3rd anniversary episode coming up. Our 3rd anniversary, and I have been hard at work. Sean has been kind of hard at work on this. There's going to be something pretty nice coming your way. However, I will say that a lot of the nice things coming your way, dear listeners, that's going to be for those who have decided to join us over in the Board Game Geek Guild. So get in the guild, not just because it's cool and fun and people discuss things there, but also it could pay off, I'm just saying.
You know what the traditional gift for a 3rd year anniversary is, Alex?
Nothing?
Leather.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'm looking for something that says Leather Daddy.
Okay.
Do you have something like that?
I could get something like...
That's an Arrested Development.
Is this more Love on Man?
That's... that's an Arrested Development reference.
Anyway, which I have seen, by the way.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, a couple times, actually. I like that show a lot.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Hey, let's talk about some games we've been playing.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, let's do that.
Sean, what have you been playing?
So I got back to Wednesday night, our Dukes game night over at Empire Board Game Library. And so it's the day after my birthday, and I knew Rory was kind of getting a cake, and we were going to, put up a happy birthday banner, which they did. It was really cool. And but by the time I got there, I went to the back to talk to Rory about a couple of things, and I came out, and everybody was in their games ready to go. So I was like, oh, all right. So Rory and I...
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, that's fine. But because I said, you know what? I don't want to play something new right now. I want to play something I haven't played in a while that I really enjoy, that just haven't gotten to the table in a long time, and that was Twilight Struggle. Oh, it was so good. But I lost to Rory, which was kind of depressing. But it's excellent. I just love this game. I've talked about this a couple times before on the show, so I don't want to spend too long on it. But I've played it a lot on Steam, because I kickstarted it for a Steam copy, played a lot there, so got a good feel for it, because I probably played it maybe 4 or 5 times in person first, and then probably played about 8 or 9 times on Steam. So this was a good chance to get it back out to the table. And it was a pretty tense match. I mean, this is an epic Cold War struggle, this push and pull between the U.S. and the Russians. And I mean, we were fighting over Europe, fighting over South America, and it's just fun to see how the focus of the game changes from one round to the next, because we're fighting so hard over Europe, but there's basically these scoring cards that come up randomly. And so you play them and it says, okay, score Europe, or score South America, score the Middle East. And once it's been scored, you're going to score it again, but you have to get through the deck first and get shuffled back in, so I'm not going to have to score Europe for a while. So as soon as we knew that, all of a sudden we put all of our energy into South America, for example. Man, this game is so good. I think you need to try this again, Alex.
Do I?
I think so. I think you would appreciate it more now. Because when you learned this, it was Matthew.
I would put "learned" in quotes.
I know. It was you and someone else sitting down. Matthew was teaching you guys how to play, while simultaneously Matthew was in a game of last edition Through the Ages with me, and he was learning how to play that. So not the most ideal experience for learning Twilight Struggle.
No.
So I think we could sit down and we could play it. I think you would like it. I don't think you'd love it, but I think you'd like it and have a greater appreciation for it now than you would have back then.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Twilight Struggle, something that I was super excited to get to the table.
I got in a game that I wasn't sure I was going to like at Dice Tower Con. And in fact, Sean, I pantsed you as far as new plays go at Dice Tower Con. Did. And that is, if anyone who knows the podcast for any period of time knows, that is unusual, because typically at a Wednesday night, Dukes of Dice game night, Sean is like, hey, you got to get in new stuff. What are you doing? Yeah, cracking the whip. And no, I was the butterfly going around and just spreading pollen to different publishers, I guess.
Do butterflies spread pollen? Is that their thing?
Oh, that's bees.
That's bees.
Butterflies do stuff.
You'll always be my little butterfly, Alex.
Wow. Okay. Well, that took a turn. Anyway, as the con was winding down, I got in with our good buddy Anthony, our good, effectively Dice Tower Con buddy, and actual buddy too. Anthony, we got in almost a full game, not quite a full game, but just about a full game of Godfather. And this is the Eric Lang, Cool Mini or Not, Sea&and game. Hot release, been talked about a lot. They've had a big push on that one. Understandable given the license that they have for this one. And the design.
All of our buddies that are part of Tabletop Showcase did a big push on that on that too. So Rolling Dice Taking Names, Secret Cabal, Matt Evans from Board Game Replay, Joel Eddy, Watch It Played. Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what to think about this. I was worried it was going to be more like a Blood Rage kind of thing.
Chaz Marler. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. I was worried it was going to be more like Blood Rage in terms of and I didn't know anything about it mechanically. I hadn't actually plugged into what this game was going to be ahead of time. And I was pleasantly surprised. It's really thematic. It's not overly complex mechanically. It's got really interesting area control elements. Effectively, what you're doing on your turns are you're either completing a job from hand or from the board, or you're placing one of your figures out on the board to try and gain control of different boroughs of New York City. And as you send someone to a business, they'll shake down the business. You'll get some sort of benefit from that. As you send a family member to an area, they'll get some benefit from the backs of each of the businesses. Really thematic, really well done, and surprisingly enjoyed it a lot. It's also incredibly thematic. I don't know if I mentioned that.
You did several times.
Yeah, well, it was a selling point, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I'm sure we'll talk more about this fairly soon, as it's one of the hot games, if not one of the hottest games right now. Sean, are you excited to try this one?
Yeah, I am. Empire, in fact, just got a copy. They've got a store copy, and they've got a couple for retail. I'm holding off on picking it up for now, just because we've got kind of a backlog of review games that we need to get out. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. In fact, when Raquel and I were at the shop last night for Dukes of Dice date night, we were looking at it, and I was like, man, I could certainly watch The Godfather right now. I love that movie. And we might watch it this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be good preparation. Because the game's done in different acts.
Right.
And you get different characters that you can bribe. You'll bribe people. What I didn't talk about was one of the cool components of this is there's a little suitcase that sits on the table that you stash money cards in.
Right.
And then from that suitcase, which is effectively your victory points, you can then bribe to pay to acquire different people to go around the city doing things.
Yeah.
Whether it be the mayor who can kind of serve as a family member on your behalf or a replacement thug. There are different cards that will come out at different times that you can bid on.
Yeah.
It's well done. It's tied in very well to the movie. And
sure.
Yeah.
And I love the movie. I love the whole genre. I mean, Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies. I love The Sopranos. I've watched that 3 or 4 times through.
You need to see Baby Driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's got John Hamm. That's always a selling point for me.
Gotta get that ham.
John Hamm's delicious John Hamm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Or Ham and Bubbly.
Ham and Bubbly.
Yeah, for SNL. Anyway, that is Godfather, the game. Excited to play more of this.
Cool. So, since you weren't there, Alex, and since I was busy getting plays of stuff I've already played, Matthew said, okay, Sean, I'm going to take responsibility for your new plays. So he introduced me to a couple new games. I'll talk about one of them now. It's called Brace for Impact, and this is from Rampage Games, LLC. It's designed by Chris Rossetti, and this comes in a small little tin, and it's just a handful of components. It's a couple cards. There is this little torpedo mini for each player. It's 2 players only. There's a pair of dice for each player, and there's maybe a couple chits. And basically, you are racing to either kill all of your opponent's crew, because it's rival submarines. So kill all of your opponent's crew by loading and firing torpedoes at them. Or there are these knowledge crystals. You're trying to acquire 5 of them first. So you're racing to do one of those 2 things. So as I'm playing, if I notice, oh, you're killing off all my crew, but I'm gathering these crystals, I may need to stop gathering crystals to try and recruit some more crew to, give myself some more health, so to speak. It's really simple. All you're doing is you're rolling 2 dice. And you're pretty much looking for 7s or doubles. So sometimes you'll be on the surface, sometimes you'll be submerged, and what you can do is different depending on the 2. So if I'm surfaced and then I roll doubles, I believe it is, I can get an extra crew. When I'm submerged, and if I roll doubles, that's when I get the crystal. Otherwise, I'm trying to load the torpedoes or dive using a 7, and then I can fire the torpedoes out. It was quick. It was, I don't know, probably a minute. No, it was probably like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, something like that. And it was fine. It was fine. It was enjoyable. I think it was like a $15 MSRP, or maybe it was 10, somewhere in that range. I mean, you're basically just trying to roll 7s as quickly as you can, right? So there wasn't a whole lot of choice in there. I thought it might have been interesting if you were rolling 3 dice, picking 2, and maybe there was some other option. But again, that's just me always trying to overcomplicate stuff because I didn't feel like I necessarily had a lot of agency. I mean, I won, but I was like, okay, so I rolled 7s and
you weren't feeling satisfied with it necessarily.
Faster. Right. And I thought, but I think there's something here, and I would have liked a little bit more choice and decision present. But definitely worth checking out. I feel like it's a missed opportunity, though. It shouldn't be called Brace for Impact. It should be called Race for Impact.
Oh.
Right? Because it's a race game, kind of. You're trying to, it's speed, it's... Okay. Why are you not with me on this?
Okay. It makes sense to me.
Race for Impact!
Make the most impact, I guess.
Yeah.
You're racing to like crash into something?
No.
Okay. That doesn't make any sense.
All right. Whatever. Fine. Brace for Impact from Rampage Games LLC.
Next one I'll talk about is another one I was pleasantly surprised with. So we've talked about Codenames plenty on this show, and Sean, you were always higher on Codenames than I was. 6.
It's
a 6 for you, and I don't remember what I gave it on the double take. On the double take too?
I think so.
I don't remember. Maybe. I might have kept it at a 5, but it's in that like low 5, high 4 range for me.
Right.
Is sort of where Codenames is at for me. Codenames pictures I liked a lot too. I thought the art on the cards was really cool. I was not sure what to expect out of Codenames Duet. So for folks who don't know, this is the new release coming out in the Codenames series. It is 2-player cooperative. 2-player cooperative game. How they make that work is they have a 2-sided card. And so you see one version of the puzzle, your partner, not opponent, sees the other side of that. So what might be an assassin for you could be an agent for them. So depending on who touches the card, it might work in different ways. You have to find all of the agents on the board. There are neutral bystanders, which you tick off. You basically have a certain number of turns to complete this. And if you pick a neutral person, that ends your turn immediately. You can also choose to discard one of those same timer tokens, and that will end your turn as well. It works really well. Really, really well, and fixes a lot of the problems that I would have with Codenames. My problems with Codenames are it tends to lend itself to AP. So for a party game, you have a lot of people not doing a lot of stuff, right? You have one team kind of sitting and waiting. You have another team kind of looking and examining a clue. Sean's shaking his head at me.
Yeah, because that's where trash talk comes in.
Okay, fine. With this one, you're both. I like that you're both working together, and I like that you can both pretty quickly think of a clue for the other person. It plays really quite well, and this is actually one I'm probably going to pick up as soon as it's available too.
Oh, cool.
I liked it that much. And it's one where I'm not as excited about Codenames generally, but I'm much more excited about Codenames Duet. I think it's a fantastic 2-player game. So give this one a look, even if you're a little sour on Codenames, if you like but don't love Codenames.
It's just you and Sam Healy. That's it.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay, fine. I don't hate the thing, right?
Like he hates it.
Sam hates that's it. A little different. I'm not in that group. I would agree that there's probably better word games or word games I'd play more readily than this one, but Duet is super solid, and I'm bummed you didn't get a chance to try it out because it's really good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying this because as much as I enjoy it, I figure I'll enjoy this too.
So that's Codenames Duet.
All right, the last game I'll talk about is Space Invaders Dice. This was another one that Matthew brought to Empire. This is from Turn 1 Gaming Supplies, and it's designed by Daryl Andrews. This, okay, so this can be played with multiple people, but I think this is really a solo game. It's a roll and write, and this has the classic arcade game Space Invaders, where it's all those little ships that are, coming down, and you've got your little fighter shooting at them, trying to destroy them all. And so this turns this into a dice game, a roll and write game, like I said earlier. And what you're doing every turn is you are rolling certain D6s. You have 3 D6s, and you roll 2 at a time. And basically, it's kind of weird, but they block up some columns on your player sheet, right? Because your player sheet has columns of different ships. So there's 2 blue, 2 green, a pink ship, and then above that there is one of the alien motherships or saucers or whatever. And I think there's, I don't know, like 9, 10, no, there's 11 rows of them. And what you're trying to do is trying to cross off as many of those as possible and score some bonus points for killing off the saucers. And so every turn you're blocking off access to some of the columns, and it just kind of rotates. So it just affects what you're able to do. And then you're rolling a big handful of these custom dice that have lasers for each color ship, and they also have some shields, which you can use to remove some of those block dice. So if it's like, okay, I really need to get something in the 6 column, I can remove the die to basically do that. So you need to be able to actually spend your dice. So like, for example, if I rolled all green dice, but I have no access to green ships because all of the blue ships are still below them, then those are all wasted shots. Now, if I waste a shot, I'm going to take 1 damage. And I think it's like 16 damage or something like that. However, I can choose to get 1 reroll, but if I reroll a die and it's also a wasted die, now I take 2 damage from that dice instead. So there's a little bit of press your luck there, right? So it's an interesting decision, how you're applying these dice. It was fairly quick. The cool thing too is the saucers at the top. You have to remove one at the end of each round for no points. But when you do shoot a saucer, you're going to roll another die to get like some crazy bonus points. It was fun. It was a fun solo game. I don't think I would ever want to play this with multiple players because it would be way too slow and drawn out. When I was just playing by myself and Matthew and Cameron, a couple of the people were just kind of watching. I mean, I was just boom, 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 rolling the dice, and it was really cool like that. So I would definitely pick this up as a solo roll and write game. I think there's definitely some merit here, some value here. So I'd give that a pretty strong recommendation if you're in the solo roll and write market.
So Suzanne, if she doesn't already own this, should own this.
Yeah, I think she'd like this.
Okay.
So that's Space Invaders Dice.
Last one I'll talk about is, I think, my last play, not my last new play at Dice Tower Con. That's not true. That's actually not true. It's my second to last play. Anyway,
Great.
No one cares about that.
This is terrific.
No one cares about that at all. It's a yellow game, which caught my eye because components-wise, it's actually a pretty standout game. It's a game called Arena for the Gods. It's King of Tokyo with an auction mechanic and more of a spatial element to it. So more King of Tokyo just in the dice, I guess. It's designed by Maxime Rambourg, who also did Big Book of Madness, which I haven't played. I don't know if you've tried that one, Sean.
No, I have not.
Okay. So, Arena for the Gods.
By the way, let me stop you there.
Yes.
It's not Arena for the Gods. It's Arena, for the Gods.
Thank you.
Well, that's what it's called.
Thank you for the correction.
Well, it's not an arena
supremely necessary
for the gods. Well, it's 2 different things.
Okay.
It's not an arena for the gods. It's arena. Hey, for the gods.
Yeah, and it has an exclamation mark in the title, too.
Yeah.
So I apologize for my flat delivery of that game name.
Hey, tell me a little bit about Arena.
Oh, for the gods!
Yes.
Okay. In Arena, you start off, each person has a hero or a gladiator that they're working with. You set up the arena, you draft one at a time, a weapon card, a mount, a spell, and armor, I think is the last one. And so you'll lay out one for each player, and then you will bid with life points to determine who gets to pick first. So you start the game with 20 life points, you might bid, say, 2 for one item, 0 for another item, 1 for another item, and just see what you end up with as a build. Then during the game, those cards will trigger off of die rolls. So you'll roll, I think it's 7 dice, and assign them to the cards and do those actions appropriately. Your gladiators enter an arena, move around, use different abilities based on that. Some of the abilities are better ranged. Some of them you're riding around on an elephant, smacking into people. The game looks great on the table, Sean. I don't know if you glanced this one at all.
I'm looking at pictures on BGG right now. Yeah, it looks really cool.
It's got these like spiky standees. There's spike pits in the arena itself. Your characters are standees individually, and I was pretty impressed with it. It's Anthony commented, I played this with him as well, that he was surprised this hadn't really been done this way before. And yeah, I found it enjoyable. For whatever reason, it felt like it just a little overstayed its welcome. Like the battle just lasted maybe a little too long. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I had that feeling. I like what it does a lot mechanically, and I think it actually plays pretty well and pretty interestingly. It's worth giving a look at for sure. I think this one, I don't know if it's really under the radar or if it was just under my radar, which is definitely easy enough to do. Check this one out, though. It's Arena for the Gods! Better?
Yeah,
okay,
that works.
Good. Excellent. That's what we've been playing. Let's head on over to the news desk. right, first up in news, GenCon about a month away from now, and if you have not already gotten your badges, you might be a little too late, because they have sold out of their 4-day badges. This is the first time they've ever done this, Sean. This is actually pretty unprecedented.
Yeah, and I think a big contributor to that is the fact that this is the 50th anniversary of GenCon. So I think it's generating a lot more buzz and excitement than it has previously. Not that, I mean, again, GenCon is, it's the biggest North American gaming show, right? And arguably it's bigger than Essen as well. So it's probably the biggest in the world. And it looks like this GenCon is certainly going to keep that going, right? So I think that currently I'm scheduled to go, and we'll leave it at that.
Currently I'm scheduled not to go, and I'll leave it at that because that might change.
Yes. So I mean, they've taken some steps this year. Like they're doing some stuff to bring it over to what's it called, to Lucas Oil Stadium. Kind of expanding out there. There's also some like day one or 1 day badges like for Sunday that are sold out. So this is going to be a pretty crazy GenCon, all things considered. I think that's fitting for a 50th anniversary. That's a big deal,
and it shows that the industry is still blooming, right?
Oh, absolutely. So if you're still looking to go to GenCon, I mean, there's some other options out there, but
like sneaking in,
sure. Which I've done that to San Diego Comic-Con once before.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Statute limitations. It's fine. I'm good. We're good.
And he knows because he's a lawyer.
Well, I don't know California law, but we'll just, it's in San Diego.
Excellent.
But I'm probably outside the statute of limitations.
If they're prosecuting you for sneaking in at an unspecified date to Comic-Con, they have too much time on their hands, I think.
Well, they want to have the necessary elements to prove it. So we're good.
Even though you've just admitted it.
Yeah, but again, they don't know when.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm not a lawyer.
By the way, everything I said may have been for entertainment purposes only.
Excellent. So that's GenCon. I think pretty good sign for the industry. I don't know if I'm necessarily excited to go, but if I do go, I'll embrace it, I guess.
I have images of you in like the main hall.
Yeah.
In a fetal position in the corner, just curled up.
Just, oh God, why? So many publishers, so many people. Yep. There's so many people.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well. So that's GenCon news. Hey, how about some acquisition news?
Yeah.
Plan B Games is picking up Eggertspiele. What's going on with this, Sean?
Well, this is kind of interesting, and this kind of requires a little bit of setup. So Plan B Games, of course, is the new publisher that brought us Century Spice Road. They have on as consultants isn't the right word, but basically they've brought on people like Matt Leacock and Emerson Matsuuchi to help with development of various things. So Plan B was started by Sophie Gravel, who used to own or operate or CEO or whatever of Philosophia, which had acquired Z-Man, became F2Z Entertainment, which was then acquired by Asmodee, and that's now Asmodee Canada, right? So as part of that deal, my understanding is that she was able to leave with some properties, including Century Spice Road, which originally had been a Plaid Hat game, but Plaid Hat got acquired by Z-Man, and so she was able to leave with that, as well as Pretzel Games as a studio within Plan B Games. Okay, everyone with me out there so far?
I'm not even with you.
Okay. So that's, as I know it, as I understand it, that's where we stand right now. And basically, they have now acquired Eggertspiele, and Peter Eggert, who runs Eggertspiele, is going to stay on for 3 years to assist with development. But what's really interesting to me, and this wasn't really mentioned, but this is kind of the implication, is Eggertspiele had a strategic partnership with Stronghold Games. Basically, a lot of Eggertspiele titles were automatically going to kind of come over to the US and North America via Stronghold. So I don't know what this says for that, because now it sounds like Plan B will, any of those Eggertspiele games will be being brought over by Plan B, presumably. I mean, that would seem to make sense. So I don't know what I don't know if it means that strategic partnership is gone or what. But I just thought that was kind of an interesting development and not something I necessarily expected. I mean, because this is a new company. Now, granted, Philosophia, F2Z, a lot of experience there, but still kind of a newer, smaller company. But it sounds like they're trying to hit the ground running. They just started up in January of this year.
Nice.
So very interesting and interested to see kind of how that pans out.
Well, we saw Century Spice Road made a pretty big splash.
Oh yeah, huge splash. Empire is selling tons of copies of that. I'm seeing it played everywhere at Dice Tower Con, and I still see it being played a ton at Empire. So yeah, I mean it's a solid game, and got to see Emerson again.
One of my favorite stories from Dice Tower Con was J.R. Honeycutt was having a chat with Emerson Matsuchi, and this was just as the con was wrapping up. I was about to go catch a lift with Emerson and Nicole from Daily Worker Placement blog and Great Way Games. Really cool. Love meeting Nicole at Dice Tower Con. But anyway, they were having a chat, and these group of guys were walking by, and JR stopped one of them as they were going by and said, "Excuse me, are you a fan of that game?" The guy was carrying like Century Spice Road, and he's like, "Yeah, I love it." And JR was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Enjoy your day." And like Emerson was like right there and just like watching, and they didn't realize that the designer of the game was right there too. But easy enough not to know. It was Emerson. Emerson had told me he was. He wasn't so he would have given the autograph of X, but it's not something he was like, "Oh, I'll sign your game." Kind of thing, you know. So really cool meeting him again at Dice Tower Con.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, final news we're going to talk about is our Kickstarter. Not our Kickstarter. We don't have a Kickstarter to my knowledge.
Yeah, we're running this one, Alex.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we sure are.
That'd be a cool name if we were. This Kickstarter is called Hand of Glory.
Hand : of glory.
It's not. No. Nope, not that way. Nope, not getting me this time. So these are modular gaming miniatures with magnetic hands.
Yep.
Right? That's the gist of it.
No, that's what it is.
The hands themselves have different weapons in them, or different things that you can swap out. Hot swap
glass
hands.
bottles.
Yeah, all sorts of to try and make for a more thematic, miniature-based experience.
Yeah.
Probably more for role-playing games, I would think.
Yeah, this is definitely for role-playing games. I'm kind of confused. So you picked the Kickstarter this week.
Sure.
I'm kind of confused why this spoke to you.
I just find the components of this interesting. But from what you're telling me, has this been done before? Or is this done?
Not as a Kickstarter.
Okay.
So according to the Kickstarter, they use their proprietary rare earth magnet system.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean proprietary? So for the last 10, 12 years, we've been using rare earth magnets. These are little tiny but really strong magnets. They're usually some copper plated or some gold color metal.
Yeah, this is, and boy, all the scientists out there are going to smack me around for this one. Neodymium?
Yeah.
Neodymium, I think.
Sure.
Anyway.
So, yeah, I mean, we've been doing this for forever because sometimes you either want to be able to customize weapons or whatnot. Like I'll show you when we go upstairs when we're done here. I've got this big mech suit that has a sword, but I could take that off and give it a gun or a flamethrower or whatever.
The sword itself off or the entire arm?
The sword.
Okay.
So, but you have control where you do it, right? So, if I need to do it where I just need to change the hand, I can just change the hand. But sometimes if I need to take the whole arm off, just the way that the model's supplied, I can do that too.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is interesting. This is very cool. I think the miniatures look great. I mean, these are all fantasy style miniatures. They've got a rogue and a dwarf and a samurai and a bunch of different stuff. I think they look good. I think the quality on them is solid.
And more than 100 different items, which you can use with any of the miniatures. So it's, I guess, some degree of diversity in the set.
Yeah.
So if any of this sounds interesting to you and you're like me and hadn't heard of this and are hearing of this and are like, oh, that looks cool. It's $20 for one figure and 15 accessories, or $140 for 11 figures and 115 accessories.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, and it's doing well. I mean, it's raised $80,000 of its $10,000 goal.
Yes.
So it's certainly doing well. And I think if you are in, you're a solid fantasy RPGer, right? You're definitely going to get some use out of these. I have so much stuff that I'll be like, okay, if I'm playing this, I need someone with a sword and a shield. Okay, I know who I can get, and I'll go grab it. And even if I can't find the perfect figure, it's like, well, it's just there as kind of an aid, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
You, sir, are not doing it immersively enough.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Are you painting these, Alex?
No, I am definitely not.
That would be one thing. If these were pre-painted, I'd be like,
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean,
didn't catch your interest.
Didn't catch my interest. I was a little annoyed that they called it their proprietary rare earth magnet system. I'm like, no, not really. No,
okay.
Not really. Yeah. So, I mean, I think definitely worthwhile checking out if this fulfills a need of yours. And right now, with playing 2 one-shot RPGs a year maybe.
Yeah.
Not really
No.
fulfilling that.
Fair enough. So it has, as Sean mentioned, raised more than enough for its goal. Funding for this one ends August 11th. So you got a little bit of time to back this one if you'd like. And that is our Kickstarter, Hand of Glory. And that is our look at the news. Well, Sean, I'm packing my bags.
Oh, you're leaving again?
Yeah, I'm going to Kyoto.
Okay, that seems weird.
With my army.
You have an army now?
Yeah, I do.
Are you
An army of fans?
15% maybe?
Hey, that's a good number.
Yeah.
All right. No, but I'm talking not about actual travel for once. I'm talking about Jiraku, soon-to-be released game from Tasty Minstrel Games.
Oh, you're not being literal. I was so confused.
Yeah.
Ads are hard, Alex.
So in Jiraku, you are trying to play out armies to the board and control different territories of Japan with the ultimate goal of dominating Kyoto.
So what's interesting here, Alex, is unlike a lot of area control games, the main mechanic here is trick-taking. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. Trick-taking. It's a trick-taking area control game. Area control and trick-taking. How many times can I say trick-taking, Alex?
Several. Not an infinite number, but a good number.
So it's pretty interesting, right? I mean, because you don't typically see that kind of combination.
And it works really well.
It does. In fact, you have played this. You played this in your travels. I actually imported the copy before Tasty Minstrel Games was nice enough to kind of do that work for our listeners out there, which is going to be happening pretty soon. It's anticipated July, maybe August release for Jiraku.
You can check out Jiraku and all of TMG's other titles at playtmg.com. The time has come. We will know, by the time you are hearing this, which game has been crowned the Spiel des Jahres winner and which game has been crowned the Kennerspiele des Jahres winner. But of course, based on recording times and lack of planning and all sorts of fun stuff, we don't know, but we're going to break down all these games anyway. It's our look at the Spiel and Kennerspiele field.
All right, Alex. Well, let's talk about the Spiel des Jahres nominees. And I think we're going to kind of break down these games. We've talked about them on and off on the podcast for the last couple months. What our individual picks are as far as what we would like to see win, but also what we think we're going to actually predict the winner. And basically, this episode drops the day that the actual winners are announced. So listeners out there, you'll be able to know right away how right or wrong, which may be the case, we happen to be. So,
but what's also useful about this, I think, too, beyond just predicting the award and whoever wins, is which of these games are likely to have some staying power over here in the States. Because at this point, I've played all of them.
Yeah.
And Sean, you've played almost all of them.
5 of the 6. So again, a weird transition or difference than normally happens.
I sense the growing power.
Oh, boy.
Baseball highlights forever. First mention.
Okay, anyway.
I got that in there.
Yeah, you sure did. So let's talk about the different Spiel nominees, right? So this is, of course, just for reference, this is the German award. It's the game of the year. They've been doing this since, the 70s? And it's definitely a coveted award that publishers seek because it is guaranteed to dramatically increase sales of your game. I mean, hands down. Even a nomination is really solid. So, for the Spiel, which is the main award, there are 3 titles. Quest for El Dorado by Rainer Knizia and published by Ravensburger. Kingdomino by Bruno Catala and published by Blue Orange Games. Magic Maze by Casper Lapp and published by Pegasus Spiel and Sit Down!
Sit down!
Sit down. So yeah, we've, like I said, we've kind of talked about these before, but let's kind of go through each of these. So Quest for El Dorado is a race game. It has a series of these hexagonal tiles that have a bunch of smaller hexes on them, and they're all different types of terrain. Some of them will require machetes to move your pawn through. Some of them will require money. Some of them will require the boat symbol or the paddle symbol. I forget which one it is. And you're basically trying to get from the start to the end of the tiles, which is El Dorado. And it uses a deck building mechanic. So initially you have a hand of cards that is like a couple 1 machetes, right? And some money and things like that. So you're going to be upgrading your hand. You're going to be purchasing cards with that money to buy better machetes or to buy cards that thin your deck or to allow you to, like there's some cards that give you an option of spending it as the different types of symbols, which gives you a little bit of versatility there. This game's really cool. I like this a lot, and I'm not a huge Reiner Knizia fan, Alex.
No, you're typically not.
I'm typically not.
It does not feel like, to be fair, a typical Reiner
True.
Knizia game by any means.
That's true.
This doesn't have that mathy feel to it that a lot of his games can have.
Right. Now, the deck building here is not a big, sprawling deck building like, say, a Clank, right? Or Tyrants of the Underdark. This is still, though, deck building with impact on a board, which I love. So that's definitely, right off the bat, that's in my sweet spot, right? And like I said, though, the deck building isn't crazy, but it's certainly there. Now, you're always going to see the same cards, which is, that's kind of, to me, that's kind of the downside of it, because I enjoy having a different pool of cards from different deck builders to go through. Or if it's in the style of Clank, where you don't have different pools of cards, but you just have a big deck and a gallery layout, so you're not necessarily seeing all of them in a given game.
The variability of this comes with the timing of when you can buy those cards, just based on how the system works, and then also the map you can change up pretty well. That's where the variability of this one is.
Well, and also the variability of where the cards become available, because the different pools of cards aren't all available at the start of the game. You have to basically exhaust one pool of cards, and then the pools above it are now eligible until you buy from one of them, and then that second pool is no longer eligible until you buy through that new bottom pool. It's kind of confusing, but...
You basically have a buy row that once it's exhausted, you would refill from the other buy row, but only after someone buys a card from it.
Right.
All of the cards are available at some point in the game.
Yeah, more than likely. So yeah, I've really enjoyed plays of this. I can see myself playing this for a while. I own a copy. I'm keeping the copy. And I'll just say right now, this is my choice of the three.
Your choice to win?
My choice, my favorite of the three.
Okay.
Yes.
Your favorite
the one I would
play.
the one I would like to see win.
I'm less high on it.
Yeah.
I'm less high on it for a couple of reasons. One, I like that variability in deck builders. With something like Dominion or Clank or whatever else, I like the fact that you aren't going to see everything in one game, and with this one, you're going to see everything in one game. There's some other things, advanced rules to mix it up. I like what it does to make deck building more accessible to people, and I think having a spatial element to things helps do that.
Sure.
And I think as far as a Knizia game, I think it's a success and shows some of his versatility. So I think as a design, it's actually really solid. Of the games, it's actually my least favorite of the three.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I don't hate it by any means. I think I'd probably give it a 4 if we were to do a full review of it. I've only gotten a play of it, so that's just an initial impressions kind of score. It didn't excite me. I liked a lot of what it does. I'd rather play something like Clank any day.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I would too. I mean, if I were to give it a rating right now, it would also be a 4.
Okay.
But
interesting.
Well, yeah, but that also, that kind of gives you my taste, though, as far as the typical Spiel nominees, right?
Sure.
I mean, they're not typically. This isn't going to be my go-to category.
I did a little quick research, by the way, while we were talking.
Sure.
Reiner, at least in the Spiel, has won one Spiel before. It's for a game, Keltis, which in the U.S. is effectively sold as Lost Cities, the board game.
Yeah.
So this would be his second Spiel, though he's also won the Kinderspiele and some other special awards. So a pretty accomplished designer, been nominated for a bunch of others. We'll see. And we'll talk a little bit more about where this fits into the category as far as whether we think this is going to be the winner at the end of the day. So that is Quest for El Dorado. Next up, Kingdomino. This is a Bruno Cathala game released by Blue Orange here in the U.S. And Sean, have you gotten a number of plays of this one in?
I have. In fact, I did a YouTube video of this not too long ago. And this is an interesting. It's kind of set collection, tile placement. Basically, you have this kingdom that you're trying to build with these domino-ish tiles. Basically, they're these long tiles that have two different sides, left and right. They're different types of terrain. So there's like a field and forest and mountain or something like that.
Desert.
Yeah. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to build them in such a way that you are clumping like terrain types together. And also you're looking for tiles that have crowns on them because it's going to be a multiplier. So for every contiguous square you have of one type, you're going to multiply that times the number of crowns that you have in that type. And that's going to primarily be how you score your points. Now, how you're acquiring these tiles is pretty interesting. Basically, you are laying out a number of them equal to the number of players, although in 2 players it does something a little bit different. But what you're then doing is you're just selecting a tile that you want. Now, the tiles are numbered, and so you're going to put them in a certain order. So the tile that you pick will also determine your turn order for the next round. And you get to see what tiles are available in the next round, so you can kind of add that to your decision-making process. I think this game is really solid. Now, when I say that, I mean it's a 4. Like, it's
Sure.
solid. Like, but it's certainly not my preferred weight. It's quick enough. It's challenging enough. And there's a nice little puzzle to this too. So when I say that my favorite of the 3 is a 4, well, they're all pretty much a 4. Well, maybe we'll get to Magic Maze in a second.
And we talked about Quest for El Dorado being a gateway in some senses to deck building.
Yeah,
this could kind of be considered that for a Rochester style draft.
Oh, okay.
Where you're seeing your options.
Yeah, all right. Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Interesting.
Great. Thanks.
No,
Sean.
yeah. No, you're right. It is. It absolutely is. I don't give you enough credit. Here's me giving you credit. I'm giving you credit now.
Oh, I feel so heartened. Aw. Anyway, this is really, really slickly designed. I think elegant is a good way of phrasing it. In Sean's terminology, sometimes that would be not enough going on. For me, this was elegant, enjoyable, and I ended up buying it. I actually got it during Amazon Prime Day, so I have a copy of it sitting at home. I like it a good amount for what it is. It's not a long game. It doesn't take that long to play. It doesn't sell for that much, but it's clever mechanically. I'd say it's a high 4, low 5 kind of range for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I thought it was going to be like a surefire 5 for you.
It's probably closer to a 5 than a 4.
All right.
I like it a lot. I think Bruno did a great job with this one. So it is my second favorite of the Spiel nominees.
Okay.
Where does this one fall for you? You had mentioned that
This is my second. This is my second
your
favorite.
second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We are opposites.
We
good
sure
sir.
are.
Huh. All right. So that's Kingdomino from Bruno Cathala. The last one of the list is Magic Maze, which I tried for the first time and you tried for the first time at Dice Tower Con. It's a Pegasus Spiel sit-down title designed by Casper Lapp. Sean, best way you could describe this one, it's effectively... I like to think of it as you're operating a robot, but you each control a different arm or leg of the robot. Okay. It doesn't actually play like that.
No.
It'd be really cool if it did.
It's a fantasy theme, but you're in a mall, which is weird.
It's the theming is what it is.
Yeah. But. Yeah, no. So, for example, you might control being able to move these 4 different characters. You can move them up, Alex, and I can move them down, and Suzanne can move them to the left, and so on. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to move them onto certain spaces to search new tiles, because it's this modular, these modular square tiles that have a bunch of different features of the small. So you're trying to explore new tiles, ultimately trying to find these little access points for the particular colored pawns. And then once you do that, you kind of unlock these things, and you have to get everyone out of the mall in real time. So again, no turns, it's real time. And it's also supposed to be silent. So I'm in charge of moving this character to the right, let's say, but this character is sitting right below this spot that we need to get it to, and you need to move it up, Alex. And oh my goodness, you don't see that you need to move it up. Why don't you see this, Alex?
It might be because there are 4 pawns on the board at the same time. That's the trick.
Man, you got really defensive there.
No, but
just kidding.
It's one of those where there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
The fact that you have 4 pawns that might need to do different things at different times. For instance, this pawn needs to go to its home so we can activate the second stage of the game. It's shopping the mall that it's breaking into or needs to go to. Don't worry about the theme. The theme just is weird. Yeah. It's weird. But this pawn might also be in a good position because it needs to go to this certain spot to flip the timer, because once it activates that flip the timer spot, 1, that buys us more time in the game. 2, we get to talk for a little while before making another move about what's going on, what needs to happen, in what way. Yeah. I like this one a good amount, Sean.
Yeah.
A good amount.
Yeah, I figured.
You figured. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I think is actually, if you were to play through to the point where you'd gotten the full rules, because it plays in a scenario campaign style.
Right.
I think there's 15, 20 different scenarios.
Oh.
The first 9 or 10 of them add rules.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I'm aware.
For instance, so you might start off the game tasked with moving your character up and revealing new tiles. One of the rules that comes up is every time you flip the timer to gain more time, you pass your tile to the left, which makes your brain have to think in a completely different way about what's going on out there.
Because so far you've been thinking left, and now you're the down person.
Right. Or whatever the case may be,
Right.
or you're no longer in charge of searching tiles. Now you're in charge of warping people or dealing with the mall escalators that pop up in this thing.
Yeah.
It also has, in order to communicate, you mentioned that frustration of why aren't they moving? Why aren't they moving? There is a piece that comes in the game expressly for this. It's like this little pawn knocker thing.
It's the PAP,
What?
the passive aggressive pawn.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But actually, in some cases, just actually aggressive.
It's APAP, aggressive, passive aggressive.
Sure. Great.
Pawn.
App.
App.
So you grab this thing and you just like slam it on the table in front of someone, sometimes lightly, like, hey buddy.
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, there's a pawn to move. Or as the timer ticks down and things get stressful, like, oh, move the piece. What are you doing? Why? Ah.
Yeah.
Yes. I ended up coming back to this one. So I tried it out and I got another play of it in Hot Games and really enjoyed. I own Kingdomino now. I'm definitely going to try and pick up Magic Maze because I found it a good kind of stressful. And to me, it's an escape zombie city killer. It's an escape from the temple killer. That real-time kind of game. I would much rather play this than that.
Well, and I had downgraded those from a 4 to a 3 at a certain point, and so it might be. It might kill those games, but that's not saying for me. That's not saying a lot at this point.
Well, given it's your third favorite of the Spiel,
it's my third favorite. It could be a 4 if I wanted to play this more. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I think if I would probably settle on a 3 for this. I said to myself, okay, I'm glad I played this. I enjoyed my plays. I just don't see myself coming back to this. I don't see myself bringing it out. Whereas I absolutely see times where I'd bring out Kingdomino and Quest for El Dorado.
Interesting. And I see Magic Maze as a perfect situational game in some ways for corporate team building.
Sure.
Be ideal for that, right?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. I just love what it. And by the way, I think of the 3 games, to me, it's the most innovative mechanically.
Oh, I would agree, hands down. Yeah.
Now, not that the award goes for that game necessarily.
Well, but that is a strong consideration. I mean, the committee. I think Alexander Pfister in the interview talked about how that's a strong consideration is innovation, and certainly I think this would definitely be the most innovative of the 3.
Yeah. So that's our field of 3. You heard the ranked order. Sean goes Quest for El Dorado 1, Kingdomino 2, Magic Maze 3. Flip that, and you have my list.
Yeah.
I think for me, Magic Maze is a solid 5. Easy. So okay, let's look at what has the Spiel done recently. I think that's a good way of getting some context. So last year you had Codenames, Imhotep, and Karuba. And Codenames, which had the early buzz, ended up walking with it. Even though for you really liked Karuba. I don't know if you liked it to win, but I think you liked it maybe more than I did.
Yeah, I didn't like it to win, but yeah, I mean, I picked Codenames as my favorite and as the eventual winner. But Karuba I really enjoyed.
Year before, you had Colt Express, Machi Koro, and The Game. So you had kind of the most thematic and arguably most complicated of those ended up coming out with Colt Express.
Right.
Was it the most innovative? I think at the time you might consider
probably.
it that.
Yeah, probably. But still not that innovative, I don't think.
No, I don't think that was an innovative
It's programming
year.
And there's a 3D element to the train, which is really cool. I mean, I think it was the biggest wow.
Right.
The most wow factor.
Sure.
So
And you want to talk about wow factor, the year before that, you have Camel Up, Concept, and Splendor. And Camel Up, not Camel Cup, Camel Up. It's listed that way on the award.
I don't know what you're talking
Ramirez,
about. Sure.
Ends up winning in that year. I think fair to say most innovative. It stuck around for me. I've seen it on the table.
Yeah, I don't know that's the most innovative, but yes, I think it definitely has had
Most
the most
eye-catching.
Well, here's the thing. Has it had the most staying power? I mean, Splendor is a juggernaut.
Yes.
Right? Splendor is huge.
Yes.
Huge. I see it out all the time at Empire. I saw it, people playing at Dice Tower Con. I mean, everywhere.
I've seen Camel Up get some
sure.
plays as well, but not to the degree. You're right. Splendor.
Yeah. I mean, if you're picking my favorite, Camel Up Up is my favorite. And Splendor, I mean, I'd probably play Century Spice Road now instead. But as far as overall impact on the hobby, I think Splendor has had the most.
Wait till you see the Splendor expansions.
Yeah.
That may change things a bit for you. Maybe not.
Okay.
I don't know.
Until the second in the Spice Road trilogy
of course.
comes out.
And then they're just going to keep trying to top each other. You have 2013, Hanabi takes it over Augustus. I don't know much about that one in Quicks. I've never played.
You haven't played Augustus?
Oh, is that the?
It's Agave
That's
Caesar.
the bingo one? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've played that one a lot.
Yeah.
Actually. I didn't realize it was the same game. Okay, fair enough. Hanabi, if you're looking at that field, is probably the most innovative at the time of those.
Yeah, I agree.
And most thematic, I don't know about that. Augustus would probably be that.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick out a pattern is kind of what I'm getting at here.
Oh, absolutely.
So 2012 Kingdom Builder wins over Las Vegas and Esselbrücke. I don't know what that translates to in English.
I don't know.
Anyway.
But Las Vegas is awesome, and
I played
locked.
Las Vegas at Dice Tower Con recently and almost bought a copy of that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, really good game. Really good game. And finally going back another year, Quarkle wins over Asara and Forbidden Island.
Yeah.
And that's one too where you don't know exactly where the committee's going. Before that, it was all one award. They hadn't split it yet. So,
right. They did some like special awards, like
Right.
Agricola one year. They just wanted to recognize it.
Sure.
But yeah, for the most part.
So given that, so the prediction from Alexander Pfister was Magic Maze takes this one. Sean, if you're looking at this field and looking at how the committee's acted in the past, this strikes me as a tricky one. Where would you lean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think Quest for El Dorado is in the running, even though it's my favorite.
I would agree with you too.
Yeah, even though it's my favorite. I think it's between Kingdomino and Magic Maze. And it's hard to say because sometimes they want to go with the simpler game and sometimes they don't. I think it's going to be Kingdomino, but I wouldn't be super surprised if it's Magic Maze.
So your prediction is Kingdomino.
I think it's Kingdomino, but again, it wouldn't be shocking to me. It wouldn't be an upset.
I think you've handicapped it right. I think I'd be genuinely surprised if El Dorado ends up winning out of this field.
Yeah.
Sorry, Reiner. Magic Maze to me, when you combine the level of innovation that you have there and the fact that it's going to work possibly in family situations as well. I mean, Kingdomino will too. I think both of these are easy enough. Any of these are really easy enough for that situation. I think that innovative edge to it is what carries the day.
It might. So when I give the weight to Kingdomino, I think it's because of that elegance that you talked about.
Right.
So it's really going to be, what is the committee looking to recognize this year? The elegance or the innovation? And I think that's the big question. Because you've got Kingdomino, this short little rule book, you sit it on the table, and it's these big crunchy decisions with very low rules overhead.
Right.
You've got Magic Maze, you have this giant rule book, but it's super innovative.
The rulebook itself is giant because you're spelling out different rules.
I know.
To play that first scenario, it's to be clear, it is not a hard rules teach, and I don't think it's that complicated of a game, generally.
No, but
it's more complicated than either of the two.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, certainly than Kingdomino. I'll lean Magic Maze, but I agree with you that it's a potential toss-up, and I wouldn't be surprised if either of those two won.
Yeah.
So that's our predictions for the Spiel. Moving on over to the Kennerspiele, and this is an interesting field, Sean.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start with this one? Exit?
Yeah, let's just go down the list that we created.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me too. Exit the game. So this is the escape room games. There are three of them. I've only played one of the three. Sean, you've played...
I've played two. I've played the Lost Cabin or the Secret Cabin. Abandoned Cabin, and then the Pharaoh's Tomb. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's the genetics one or the science lab one. Right. Which I haven't played. But, I mean, I've gotten a good enough flavor. I think even with just one, you'll have had a good enough flavor.
Is this the lowest MSRP Kennerspiele game ever?
Probably.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
At least when you compare it to typical heft of games. The bigger game, just in like physical heft, not weight of game.
Although it's probably one of the highest cost to play ratios. Since you have to trash the game, basically.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. So that's Exit the Game. Sean, from your experience playing this one, where does this one stack up for you? Well,
to me, it's such a weird nominee.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not something that I mean, I was taken aback when it first got announced as one of the nominees. I think they're fun. I think they're really cool. I mean, this whole escape room phenomena that's started up in the last, 5 years, at least since I've been aware of it.
Sure.
Is really interesting. And now we have like 5-6 different companies that are producing these different escape rooms in a box This is the only type that I've played. So I don't have a big field of comparison to some of the other types, but certainly enjoyable. I don't have any heartburn spending 15 minutes for 4 or 5 people to have an hour's worth. I think so, right?
You said 15 minutes.
Or $15. Sorry, yeah, $15 to have 4 or 5 people have an hour's worth of enjoyment. I think it's solid, and I think that it's interesting because sometimes you feel really clever and you're like, oh yeah, cool, I figured this out. Other times you're like, I would never in a million years think to do what this thing had me do just now. And it's nice it has the hints that you can use, and you're definitely trying to challenge yourself to not use that many of them. So yeah, it's good, but it's weird. It's just a weird nominee, and I don't know what to make of it. I don't know. It's hard for me to guess where this is going to wind up.
So I've played a couple of other escape room games. To me, this is certainly the most worthy of a Kennerspiele just in terms of the difficulty of it. The way it puzzles things out and thinks of things and has you think of things.
Right.
It's worthy for gamers. I think for the most part gamers will find at least enough of a challenge picking this one up.
Sure.
I couldn't say that about every escape room game I've tried recently. So yeah, on that side of things, I think it's worthy to be here in terms of its difficulty and how it goes about things. I think it's elegant in many ways in how they've put so much into just this one little box. It's an interesting price point, and it's one of those that's similar to Time Stories, which was a nominee last year, where
Right.
It almost seems like it's here because of the system.
Right.
Not because of any one individual game. And the innovation of the system. I think it's here because it's innovative, because it's unique enough, at least as far as what's being sold or what was sold at the time they were starting to judge this.
Sure.
Even though there are now, as you mentioned, a flood of escape room games. So I enjoyed my one of these. I'd like to try the other two to have a fuller sense of things. What I've heard is the one I played, the Pharaoh's Tomb, is the hardest of them.
Yeah, I think so.
So
hardest of the two I've played.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And I've heard from everyone that that's the hardest one, period. Probably not the best starting point, but hey, that's what we did. So I have some thoughts as to where this will fit in as far as the overall award. If I were to rank them out of the 3, I would say this is second or third favorite. It's hard for me to
Okay.
It's right about I have similar dislike with this with Raiders of the North Sea, which we'll talk about in a little while.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. Where does this rank for you among the 3 nominees?
Well,
the problem being
yeah. So Raiders of the North Sea. I watched you guys play a little bit of it. I did go back and watch the Dice Tower's Miami Dice review of it. So I expect to like Raiders of the North Sea. From what you know of my game taste and from you having played it, would you have that same expectation for me?
I would, although I'd be curious for you to try Coldwater Crown first.
Okay.
I think you'd like the theme of Raiders of the North Sea better.
Yeah.
But I think you'll like the mechanics or how they're incorporated into Coldwater Crown better.
Okay. So yeah, so really I'm looking at Exit and Terraforming Mars, and I have some suspicions about Raiders of the North Sea, but I can't really confirm that having not played it. So, I think when all is said and done, I think Terraforming Mars is just such a strong game for me that that's all I care about right now is just saying Terraforming Mars is
I get you.
The strongest, because not having played that third game, Raiders of the North Sea, it's just hard for me to kind of weigh in.
Totally understand that. So that's Exit the game. Moving on to, the heavyweight, or at least the heavyweight as far as our perspective in some ways, Terraforming Mars. Stronghold Games, Fricks Games, Jacob Frixelius designed it. Won for Best Game from a New Designer, Dice Tower Award. It won Best Strategic Game at the Dice Tower Awards as well. Mm-hmm. Did not win Game of the Year. Scythe took that one home. This is, and we've talked about this to death. We've reviewed it on the show. It has had some staying power.
Oh, absolutely.
And arguably a little more staying power than Scythe in some ways.
I think so.
And the shame of it for me is just that it's held back by some of the production elements too.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic game.
Oh,
it's my favorite. It's my favorite of the 3. I don't think it quite gets to a 6 level for me, but it's high end of a 5 for sure.
Well, our buddy Jake from Draft Mechanic pestered me all Dice Tower Con saying, so it's a 6 now, right? It's a 6. Is it a 6? Is it a 6? You'll have to wait for the double take in a couple months, Jake.
Yeah.
I don't know yet. But I will tell
you.
I don't. I really don't. I mean, it's leaning, it was already almost a 6, and I have probably played this more since the review than any other game we have ever reviewed, if that makes sense.
Okay.
This just keeps coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a game we'll be talking about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe even 20 years from now. I mean,
Wow.
I think this game has significant staying power. For a first-time design, and yes, it has all of the production issues, the mismatch of art style on the cards,
The player boards.
the player board problem. I mean, all of these things that we've talked about ad nauseum. But the gameplay is just so solid. It's such a different experience every time, right? I mean, this all boils down to you're playing some cards from hand, you're trying to generate an engine in creating these different resources that let you do different things. Every game I've played has felt so different. Some games it's like, wow, we're hardly terraforming at all, and there's a slow burn. Other games it's like all of a sudden the oxygen just shoots up out of nowhere and everything else is kind of lagging behind. I've tried a bunch of different strategies with this game. It's just such a varying experience for me. And the engine building's really cool. The combo card play is really cool. I mean, it's so solid. And
multiple paths to victory.
Yeah.
Multiple strategies. You find something new every time. The corporations add some great variety to it. It's stellar, and the theme just works with it really well. It's a brain burner in some cases, but it feels really fun to play.
Jake, I think it's a 6.
Yep. All right. Nice secret message.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good
Yeah,
job.
that's all right. No one else heard that.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about where that one ranks in the field, because Alexander Pfister's thoughts on this are it just might be a little too heavy for how these games are judged. And he had some good insight as to how they're judged. A little too heavy to win. I agree with you, though, that in terms of the game that's going to be the longest lasting of this group, I think there's no doubt in my mind that Terraforming Mars you will see on the table more than any of these other ones come 5, 10, I don't know about 20, well, maybe 20 years from now. It's one of those that's a rock star. But if you look at the field, that's not always the game that wins. The staying power game is not always the one that takes home the crown.
Right.
So,
And let me just say this too. Terraforming Mars was nominated for the Hogodano, which is typically the Portuguese award that's typically a heavier award. And Alexander Pfister has had experience with the Hogodano as well. And so he might be right. I mean, is a game that gets nominated for this heavy award really in the running for like the Kennerspiele? I don't know. I hope so.
It's a tricky field to get a sense of from the outside. Last one in this group is one I've tried and you haven't. Raiders of the North Sea. This one's by Shem Phillips. It's going to be brought over here by Renegade Game Studios. It's the first in a series, is my understanding. I think there's going to be other Raiders of the North Sea games coming.
Hold on one second. I'm just going to lean back in my chair and let you go away with this. Go for it. Oh, it's nice. Okay, go ahead. Oh, man.
Sean kicking back and relaxing.
Yep.
So in this game, you are taking over a Viking clan, and the chief mechanic at the core of this is 1 in, 1 out. So you'll place a pawn of one kind, get the action for that, pull a different pawn somewhere else, and get the action for that one. And you're trying to build up enough resources, enough crew members on your ship to then go raiding different outposts, monasteries, different parts on the upper half of the board. So the bottom half of the board is building up your forces, the upper half of the board is raiding, and then you can turn in some of those rewards you get from raiding into rewards at the bottom of the board or increased armor. There's Valkyries, which you're trying to go after that'll kill your crew, but move you up for endgame victory points. That's the chief mechanic of it. The game has a little bit of meanness baked in, oddly enough. Some of the crew member cards definitely target each other. They can be played either as crew to your boat or for instant effects, depending on which space you're activating. And you can definitely mess with people, as I somewhat infamously said last episode, do nasty stuff to each other. Yeah. So yeah, that's Raiders of the North Sea, and I liked it well enough. I liked it. It's in that high 4, low 5 range. It's a good system, and it uses that 1 in, 1 out mechanic quite well. With a little bit of dice rolling, a little bit of meanness. It's a Euro with some of the kind of Ameritrashy elements baked in. Just a light amount of that, just enough of it for you to feel it. It feels like a Viking raiding game.
You got a lot of baking going on, Alex.
Yeah.
You got cookies or cake on the mind or something?
I could go for dessert.
Okay.
Yeah, we had some Sonic breakfast burritos.
We sure did.
This episode brought to you by Sonic. It's not brought to you by Sonic. Anyway, so the trick for me is, of this field, I think it's probably the one, since we're kind of at that point now anyway, it's the one to me that stands out as I would be surprised if this one wins.
Yeah.
Which is how I felt obviously about Quest for El Dorado. I would be surprised if you see Raiders of the North Sea called as the winner. Alexander Pfister thought, I think from his discussion of it, he indicated it was sort of his second in his mind. He thinks Terraforming Mars is just a little too hefty, and he thinks Exit the Game has actually got a pretty good shot at it. I think there's a rationale to it. My rationale is maybe a little different from his as to how this award is going to go down, although I think he is definitely the true expert. So just like we did before, let's go on and do a little history lesson. So the Kennerspiele split off in 2011. First crop of these, Seven Wonders won over Strasbourg and Lancaster.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's kind of a weird mix of games too, right?
Well, you've got a heavier Feld game, Strasbourg.
Yep.
You've got Lancaster, which is that Kiesling Kramer? I think
it's Kramer. Yeah, Kramer's listed as the designer on.
Okay,
on this.
which I have, which is really solid. Yeah. I mean, I'd probably pick either of those over Seven Wonders, but
Seven Wonders has had the staying power.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's see if we can pick up a theme. I don't know if we will or not, but the heaviest game did not win that year.
Did not.
Let's move to the next year. You have Village, K2, and Targi. I can't say too much about this category because I've only played Targi.
So I've not played K2. And who won Village?
Village won.
Village won. Yeah, and Village is, I mean, I wouldn't, it's certainly not off the radar at this point. I've enjoyed my one play of it, and I know there's been expansions, and there's the My Village, which is kind of the dice, I think the dice version of it. And Targi is a solid 2-player game, but
really good.
But I mean, it's kind of lighter fare too. It's not something that I would necessarily pick as a Kenner.
Lighter? I don't know about for Targi.
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that.
No.
Okay.
It is. It's fine.
All right.
Embrace it.
I don't. So what's the heaviest of this? I actually don't know enough about K2.
I don't know enough about K2.
I have to look up BGG scores. I might kind of, Sean, if you can do that simultaneously, that
sure.
would be helpful. On it. Excellent.
Anything else I can do for you? Some coffee,
Yeah.
Sure. Hold on.
Excellent.
Let me come over there.
Love on man. All right.
How's that feel? Does that feel good? Am I hitting the spot?
You're not actually doing anything.
Am I hitting the spot right there?
Stop lying.
I'm gonna give you an elbow.
Oh boy.
Right there. Is that it?
Yeah.
Your leg's twitching.
Ooh,
wow.
Ooh, yeah. Wow.
Okay, wow.
That got creepy fast.
This is weird. Let's move on.
2013 Kenner was between Legends of Andor. That was the winner. I haven't played it. Bruges, I have played. Palaces of Carrara. I think I played that. I think Eugene taught me that.
You played that. Yep.
Okay. I have not played Legends of Andor. I can't speak to the heaviness. Have you played all three of these?
I have not. I've only played the one. I've only played Bruges. I have not played, although I'm pretty familiar with Legends of Andor.
Yeah.
But I'm not familiar really with Palaces of Carrara. Well, I'm familiar with it, but I haven't played it. Put it that way.
Don't know about heaviness scores there either. 2014, yet Istanbul is the winner over Rococo and Concordia. And I can tell you out of those, well, and in terms of staying power, I've seen Concordia on the table more than Istanbul, though I know some people are absolutely still in love with Istanbul. Yeah. And of those three, actually, Rococo is my favorite.
Yeah.
I liked Rococo a lot.
Yeah, I think Rococo and Concordia are so solid. I think those have both had some serious staying power. And I think Istanbul has too. I mean, realistically, overall, I think that's a pretty solid list of nominees. I'm not super crazy about Istanbul, but I get it. I get the appeal of it.
I don't know what the weight score is for all of these. I think Istanbul is the lightest of those three.
Oh, it is.
In my mind, it is.
Base Istanbul is. Rococo is probably the heaviest.
Okay.
Of the three.
So some more evidence to support the theme. 2015 awards, you get Broom Service wins over Elysium and Orleans. Broom Service easily the lightest of those games.
Yes.
All three, actually, I think probably my favorite Kennerspiele year.
Solid year. Very solid year.
Really good.
I mean, 2 of those games are 6s for me. Orleans and Elysium. And Broom Service is a 5. So solid year.
Yeah. Really good crop of games. And then the following year, you get Isle of Skye winning over Pandemic Legacy and Time Stories. This last year's voting plays a factor in how I'm considering this year's nominees.
Okay.
So, and what was interesting about that was you had incredibly innovative with Pandemic Legacy, incredibly innovative with Time Stories, very different kinds of games than you would typically see. And then Isle of Skye is the one that kind of sneaks in there and takes it. Not that it's not innovative, but it's more in line with what you would see.
It's a classic style Euro.
For sure.
I think.
It does some awesome things.
Oh, absolutely.
Love Isle of Skye, and it has had some staying power. Pandemic Legacy, we still have not finished.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Well, Matt finished.
Well, one of our Wham boys, Matt,
Who's in our group.
who's in our group for this one, has finished playing his version of this.
With
so
his
now
family.
he knows what's going to happen. Oh, I'm frustrated. I'm so frustrated. Because Season 2's coming, Sean.
Will the back
and
rub-
it's going to get here, and we're not going to have finished it, and I'm going to be...
Will the back rub make this better?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go get the oils.
It's so creepy. Heaviness score, I actually don't know what would be... I would consider Pandemic Legacy probably the heaviest of these if you're going to pick one.
Yeah.
They're all kind of in the same ballpark.
Probably.
Kinda.
Yeah, probably.
Time Stories mechanically isn't necessarily super heavy, but it can have some puzzles that are heavier
Sure.
that come up from time to time. So, and what was interesting about that, so, okay, we're now at this here. So here's the three: Exit.Spiel, Raiders of the North Sea, Terraforming Mars. Sean, you rank it pretty clearly, strongly. Terraforming Mars, Exit.Spiel, and Raiders of the North Sea is a who knows.
Well, I think it would probably wind up being Terraforming Mars, Raiders of the North Sea once I get to play it. Again,
Exit.Spiel.
what I know of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I would probably go in terms of the games: Terraforming Mars, Exit.Spiel, Raiders of the North Sea.
Okay.
But Exit and Raiders are pretty close together to each other, I think. So my logic with this is the heaviest game typically, we haven't looked at this up for sure, typically does not win in this category.
Based on our perception of heaviness, yeah, I think that's true.
So while I actually think Terraforming Mars would be a contender typically, I think that eliminates it from consideration for my thing. Now, I would be pleasantly surprised if it ends up winning. I think it's more than deserving of this award.
It's kind of the Pandemic Legacy, right? In terms of the juggernaut
yes.
appeal of it this year.
Yes.
So
100% agree.
maybe, yeah.
Here's my logic. I think what happened last year was Pandemic Legacy was in the running, or Time Stories was in the running, and if there was another more typical Euro-y game in the mix of that three, whatever one was replacing it was going to win. But I think Pandemic Legacy and Time Stories split votes. That's
Okay.
my theory as to what happened. It split the kind of innovative crowd, or split the wants to reward something that does something really well that's really new. This year, you don't have that split.
You just have the one. You just have
You
Exit.
just have Exit. And I think, not knowing exactly how the committee works and not knowing what the makeup exactly is all the time, I think that gives Exit a chance, a pretty good chance. I think they're going to look to reward innovation. I think Terraforming is going to prove just a bit too heavy for this one, and I think Exit's going to take it. If Raiders sneaks in there, more power to it. But my call for this one is Exit sneaks away with this one and scores one for folks trying to do something new.
I think it's going to be Terraforming Mars.
Okay.
And that's just a gut.
Is it a heart decision or a head decision?
No, I think it's a head decision, right? I'm making the distinction between the game that I prefer and the game that I think is going to win. I think that you can't ignore how strong the appeal of this game has been. And you could say the same thing about Pandemic Legacy last year. But it just hits on so many cylinders. I think in some ways, I think it has a broader appeal than Pandemic Legacy did. I mean, you don't have to invest in this long campaign. And maybe that hurt Pandemic Legacy and Time Stories, because I don't know how much the committee actually plays of these games, right? So did everyone in the committee finish an entire year of Pandemic Legacy? I don't know. That could have held it back. So here we have a more traditional Euro that was a juggernaut this year. Absolute juggernaut. I think they're going to reward that. So I think Terraforming is going to be the winner.
Interesting. I am real curious to see how this turns out. Whether we both look foolish or not so foolish, I don't know. Because we have different predictions. You've got Kingdomino and Terraforming Mars. I've got Magic Maze and Exit. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
What happens to? We should score some points. Let's make this a game, Alex. All right.
Okay.
Well,
we don't know first, second, third.
No.
Okay.
Right. Here's what we're gonna do. Yeah, let's do win, place, and show. Oh yeah, we don't know second and third.
We don't know second and third.
Let's don't do that. So let's give some like breaker points to our favorite, right? So if our favorite wins, we get some bonus points. All right.
Okay.
So if
this could very easily end up tied still.
It very, very easily could. Okay. So for what we call, if we get it right, that is 2 points.
Great.
Okay. And if our favorite wins, by the way, what was your favorite of the spiel? It was
Magic Maze.
Magic Maze. So you're,
in fact, we've doubled up in different categories.
Oh wait, does that
That's what I'm
mean-
saying. It could easily end up tied.
Okay.
We'll find out.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that.
Anyway, Silly little game we made up on the fly. Guild had some thoughts on the Spiel and Kennerspiele, by the way. The name father, Steve O'Rourke, my arch nemesis and bitter enemy. Just kidding, Steve. Love you, Steve. We bought all 3 of the exit games that are currently available as soon as they came out. Have played 2 of 3 so far, and they are solid. Good puzzles, clever use of the deck to keep unlocking puzzle content and to send you back to the drawing board. Hint mechanisms work very well. For the price of around $15, I don't mind the one-and-done nature of it. Both of the ones we played so far have had moments of, wow, that was cool. Didn't see that coming. As I've said in other posts, it both makes you feel stupid and lets you feel smart. Based on the system and not just one game, this would be a worthy winner. And I would tend to agree, having played just one of those.
So our buddy BJ from Board Game Gumbo says, if pressed today, I would probably vote for Kingdomino. It plays well 2, 3, and 4. It's easy to teach, and it's easy for the whole family. Magic Maze doesn't seem as family-friendly, and Eldorado's fun gameplay seems a close second to Kingdomino's cuteness. But ask me tomorrow, and, well, game night's tomorrow night. And of the 3, at least if you ask me today, I would want to bring Magic Maze. Does that make it SDJ worthy?
Yeah, and he actually posted, I think, one of those pre-Dice Tower Con and one of those post-Dice... No, that's not possible. Never mind. He posted those at different times, which is interesting. So I think he was not in a set mindset with this, for sure.
Yeah.
Megan Naxer says, I have only played one of the Spiel noms, and the one I'm most interested in would be Kingdomino. I've thought about picking it up several times, but I'm just not sure it would have a long-term home on our shelf. So it's one I'd really like to try first. I'm very hesitant to try Magic Maze, as I generally avoid games with timers like the plague, with Millennium Blades being my one exception. I got to try Eldorado at Origins, and it was quite fun, but for a racing game of that weight, I'd rather play Flamme Rouge, which I have yet to try.
Yeah, and that's just interesting to me. I mean, I feel like Eldorado is maybe a little bit heavier. Flamme Rouge is kind of more of a straightforward, whereas this has the deck building element. Finally, Scott Sexton says, these awards just haven't done much for me this year. We are long past the days of amazing Kennerspiele lineups, like 2014, for example. I think maybe 1 or 2 titles on the list have been any good from 2015 onwards. It feels like the committee's taste in the KSDJs has become rather lacking. I've played every Kenner title this year except the exit games, which do seem like legit nominees. As good as it is, Terraforming Mars doesn't strike me as all that special, but from my experience, it is probably the best game of the bunch. To be fair, I'm not sure what games would have qualified for the Kenner list, but I'd imagine Clank, Ethnos, and Yokohama are all going to age far better than Raiders of the North Sea, and some of the names on the suggested list.
I don't know if Yokohama would have come out at a time where it would have even been eligible this year for the award.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it's availability in Germany, too, and I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. So, broadly, before we go, how does this year stack up for you in each of the categories? I mean, we mentioned other years that we've enjoyed the nominees more. As a whole, how does this group stack up to you?
Well, I think for the Spiel itself, I think it's a lesser year for me. I mean, all of them are at most a 4, right? Whereas years that have had Camel Up and also the train game. Gold Express, man. Those are both solid 5s for me. Solid 5s. So yeah, I think that this is a lesser year for the Kenners for me. What about you in the
for the Spiels?
For the Spiels. What about you in the Spiels?
For me in the Spiels, it's about the same as it was last year. I thought you had one with all of the games were fairly solid, really solid, and I find that this way this year. All of the games are fairly solid, with one that stands out more to me in Magic Maze. Right. I actually really like Magic Maze. If I were to, I think I like this year's Spiel nominees actually better than last year's. If I were to pick a group of those games as a whole.
And what were the nominees again last year?
Last year was Codenames, Imhotep, and Karuba.
Oof.
And for you, Codenames and Karuba were definitely standouts.
Yeah. I shouldn't like Karuba as much as I do.
But you do.
I really shouldn't.
Yeah, and for me, Magic Maze, I'd play over anything from 2016, and Kingdomino probably would play over anything from 2016 too.
Yeah.
So for me, I like this year better than last year. I think as a crop, it's I would say solid but not spectacular is probably the best way to put it.
Okay, and yeah, for the Kenner this year, I think it's an okay list that is elevated by the presence of Terraforming Mars.
Okay, you see it as a standout with a couple of other solid but not spectacular ones.
Right. Like I think I would agree that I think some of the titles in years past have been stronger.
This strikes me
the collected titles.
Yeah, this strikes me as one where the average is probably higher, but the peak was higher last year with Pandemic Legacy. For my money, Terraforming is really good though. So it's hard to say for sure. If I were comparing them head to head, Terraforming Mars versus Pandemic is sort of the juggernaut edge for me to Pandemic Legacy. If I'm comparing Exit to Time Stories, Exit would get the edge for me. Raiders of the North Sea to Isle of Skye gets the edge. So
yeah,
it's pretty comparable years for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a bad crop by any means. It's certainly not my favorite crop of Kennerspiele noms. Again, kind of in that solid range. I think, though, with Terraforming Mars, you have one that will have some staying power. And there are years with this award where none of the games have had staying power.
Right.
And I think at least one will from this crop, for sure. So that's going to do it for our Spiel and Kennerspiele conversation, which you are possibly screaming at the podcast radio for.
You dummies!
You dummies, you got it all wrong.
Yeah.
Raiders of the North Sea won, dummies. So that's our discussion of this year's Spiel and Kennerspiele field. Keep an eye out for some of these titles you haven't seen yet in game stores here in the States pretty shortly.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double-Take.
This week, we are looking back at a classic Dukes of Dice episode.
Ugh.
A memorable Dukes of Dice episode.
Ugh.
And they are not always memorable.
Getting a little heated here just thinking about it.
It was, so when I go back, this is kind of a full behind, this is episode 99, No Zeus for You. It was the episode where we looked back on Deus, and we reviewed Food Chain Magnate, and by we, I mean you and Duke Derek Davis, who hopped along for the ride. So,
by the way, a Seinfeld reference.
Yes.
No Zeus for You.
Yes, I was familiar with it. It was a good name. I don't know who did it, but it was a good name. So what made this episode so memorable, and by the way, for full disclosure, usually for double takes, I will go back and listen to the end of a review to kind of get a flavor of where our thoughts were on the game, kind of our summaries, our scores. For this one, I knew I had to listen to the whole review, because boy, did it get entertaining. So for background context, I played kind of a full game, not really a full game of Food Chain Magnate leading up to this, and I wasn't going to review, but I was definitely going to participate aggressively. Also, I think I'd had that Saturday off where we were recording at a different time for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think, Thursday, it was like a Thursday night or something?
Maybe, yeah. That wouldn't surprise me if that was the timing of it. And I had a couple beers.
You had one, right?
1.5.
1.5. So
it's recorded for posterity as 1.5 beers.
So lightweight Duke Alex showed up.
Yes.
And boy.
And lightweight Duke Alex came to party, for sure. Got into big disputes over the thematic nature of it, whether the game was opaque as far as different scoring options. By the way, all of my arguments were incredibly sound and accurate.
And well articulated.
Well articulated in the moment. Surprisingly well articulated given my state at the time.
Okay, I thought we were being sarcastic about that. But okay,
no, you were being sarcastic.
Yeah, and I thought you were agreeing with me too.
No, I
that's
wasn't
fine.
really.
Okay.
So, Sean, you gave this one a 5.
Yeah.
Derek gave this one a strong 5. I came in with I'm not giving this one a rating, but if I were giving it a rating, I'd give it a 2. I unleashed the 2, kind of. So, Sean, have you played this one in the year since?
I have.
I know you have.
I have. I've played it several times in real life. I've played it several times online. I love this game. I think it's just so good. I am not going to change my rating to a 6.
Okay.
There are issues with my ability to teach it, and really you need to play this with a group that plays this a lot, right? Because every time I teach it, I'm going to just decimate the new players. Just them. And it's not because I'm so good, but it's just
the nature of the game.
The nature of the game, right? The nature of that experience. And so certainly when I'm playing with people who have comparable experience to me, I mean, it's a knife fight. It's a dirty knife fight in a dark alley, and there's a bunch of monkeys around, and they have little razor blades on their tails, and they're just swiping at you. This game's rough. This game's super rough, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think there are elements to it that I could call it a 6. Certainly gameplay wise, mechanic wise, it's almost there at a 6, but it's a very solid, strong 5 for me.
It was ranked 57 on BGG when we recorded this episode. Do you know where it's ranked now?
No.
I just looked it up. Take a guess.
I think it's gone down, as in worse.
So about where?
I'd say, you said it was 57?
Was 57.
I'd say 120.
It actually went up.
Oh.
It is ranked 26
Whoa.
on BGG right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
So I'm very much in the minority among the BGG community and probably among our listeners. My 15% are happy to rally behind me, but that's about it.
But I think, a big thing too is you are much less forgiving of component quality issues.
Component quality issues and bad first experiences.
Well, sure. But let's just talk about the component quality issues,
Sure.
right? So you came up to Ellie and I on the last day of BGG-Con, on last day of Dice Tower Con on Sunday, and we were playing GMT's Combat Commander. The second time I had played it. It was after our recording, and the next day I said, Ellie, let's do this. Let's get this done. And you came up and immediately you had the poop smelling face on, and
It doesn't look very good.
it's so good,
The game does not look good.
but it's so good.
Does it look good?
No, it's got this mat. It doesn't have a board. It has a bunch of
Well, and by the way,
it's a
mat-
hex encounter game, right?
Mat to people would imply like a nice mat, and it's
No,
it's like a
it's not.
folded up piece of paper.
Right, which is why I have plexiglass upstairs so I can put it over it. And yeah, no, but that's there are times when component quality is important to me, and part of it is. It's just this realization that, for certain GMT games, for these splatter spelling games like Food Chain Magnate, it's in a category of its own, so to speak. And I'm willing to be forgiving of those issues. So,
Okay.
And you're not.
No. I
mean that in a
can
bad
for the
way.
right game. Castles of Burgundy, I can forgive that.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm if it's bad, I'm more likely to ding it significantly than you are.
Well, and this is also a high weight game.
Sure.
This is like a 4 point something, I think. I think it's like 4.2.
Just because it's a
on
high weight,
BGG?
see, but I don't think a high weight game necessarily has to be ugly, right? Does it have to be?
No, I'm talking something else now.
Oh, good.
I'm
Okay.
saying that you're typically
My tastes are
anything over a 4
is
you're
dicey.
not gonna like.
Mostly, yeah, unless it's really thematic.
Have you played a 4.0 or higher?
Alchemist
That you like?
is Alchemist a 4.0 or higher?
I think it's probably
It's close.
like a 3.8. I'm talking 4.0 or higher.
I'd have to think through it. Yeah, Alchemist is probably the heaviest one that I can think of that I would like.
So looked up here on BGG and
You nailed it on the nose. 3.80.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm good
Well
at
done.
this.
Anything over a 4 that I've really liked. I'd have to go back and look through it. I can't think of much. Maybe a Lacerda game? Would
Maybe.
Gallerist get to a 4?
It might. Yeah, Food Chain Magnate. I'm really good. So I said Food Chain Magnate's a 4.2, right? Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, something like that.
4.18.
Okay, pretty good. So you're right. My taste of games would not trend into that category very often.
Yeah,
That's
and
fair.
anything above a 4 is going to be a pretty dicey proposition. Okay, the Gallerist, 4.26.
There we go.
Okay,
Yeah, I like that one well enough.
but very good component quality.
Yes.
I think
Beautiful.
a strong thematic connection for
Yes.
you.
That's what it takes.
But at the same time, you're very hesitant for Lisboa. Like, you're very hesitant to try another Lacerda game.
Not hesitant. I'll do it. It's just going to take a little. It's just going to take a little bit.
Okay.
I'll do it.
You seemed hesitant.
It's going to happen.
right.
More hesitant than I would typically be.
Sure.
Derek Davis, by the way, we did get his double take on this one as well. He posted on the Guild. In the past year, I have definitely slowed down my pace for this game, but that does not mean I like it less. In fact, the game has grown in my estimation. It is brutal and beautiful, punishing and elegant. Are there rules and component inadequacies? Of course. But this game is not just a contender for the top 10, it is officially in my top 5. I love it. I love it so much that I actually taught it to a group and refused to play it so that they could get a feel for it before a veteran joined in.
Nice.
Smart decision.
I'll do that.
I look forward to every chance I get to play this game. It is brilliant. It is a 6.
Very nice.
Yeah, so he's going there. So double take scores would go from a 5 to a 6 for Derek. Sean, you're staying at a 5, and I'm staying at a hypothetical 2.
Okay.
It remains hypothetical.
Did you play anything beyond that first game with Mike Fitzgerald?
Yes, we
You
played
did.
a game online.
Oh, we played a game online. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about
But we were counting it as like almost a play or a play kind of combined.
that. Yeah.
Anyway.
And you stopped taking turns at the end because you were just so sick of it and wanted it to be over.
Yeah, pretty much. Or just taking really quick turn. I don't know. It was whatever. So that's the Duke's thoughts. We also had plenty on the Guild, and this really shows the split of this game in some ways.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a divisive game, but it's still 26, you said, right? So Royce Calverley says, Food Chain Magnate is a favorite among a small subgroup of my gaming group. Those of us that love it really, really love it. The rest either hate the art or hate the player interaction. For me, it's a 6. My top splotter and an amazing game.
Matthew S. says, Food Chain Magnate is certainly a 6, and I say that as someone who does not demand high player interaction in my games.
Weeding Han says, Food Chain Magnate is one of my favorites. Sorry, Alex. The theme reminds me of the Tycoon games on PC years ago. I don't mind the math of return, and the joy/sorrow of snatching or losing business to another draws me back again and again. It's my only 10 on BGG, which I believe would be a 6 on the Ducal scale.
Apology not accepted. You're dead to me, Weeding Han. A new feud is starting.
Oh boy.
Anyway, Megan Nexler says, my experience with this one is mixed. I definitely don't feel like I have enough experience with it to give it a rating, and I'm not sure I ever will. I've been there, Megan. It was really fun exploring the way the game worked, and it is a brilliant design, but I'm not sure it was fun for me. It was my first splotter, like so many others, and after trying The Great Zimbabwe, I think I'd rather play it and try other splotters before returning to Food Chain. Great design, great theme, but probably not for me. Well, I'll agree with the last part. That's about it.
So I will say that since then I've played Indonesia, which I enjoyed less when I played it, but thinking back on it, I'm thinking back on it more fondly, and I'm excited to play it some more. I do have Great Zimbabwe, which I do need to get a play of. By the way, I should mention that at the time of this review, I did not own Food Chain, and I believe I said in the review, I don't think I'm going to pick this up.
Because Empire had it.
But
you do have it now.
I do have it. I did pick it up.
I think the price ended up being right, or you like the game enough.
Yeah.
Something happened, but you don't own a copy of this.
Of the two. Yeah, so that should give you some indication. So Scott Sexton says, Alex's comments regarding Food Chain were enough to reinforce my concerns with the game. I feel no need to ever try this one out. If I feel the need to purchase a heavy game that is sparsely produced, I'll buy something from Asmati Games and save like $100. Thank you, Watchdog Alex.
You're welcome, Scott Sexton. Just doing my part. Chris K says, I've got one play under my belt, and I only consented because a friend was eager to play. I enjoy heavy games and high player interaction, but I just can't get past the off-putting theme. Weird because this usually isn't an issue for me. Another knock against the game was the ballooning downtime as we collected more and more cards. Turns got longer and longer to the point where I could go and have a chat with someone, come back, and find it still wasn't my turn. Again, this is one play, and I'm sure downtime decreases with more experience. I see why it's good, I see why people like it, but I just don't have the desire to give Food Chain Magnate another shot.
And I will say that downtime would go down with more experience. At a certain point, you get pretty quick at just, like, this is what I need to do. So, all right, and then finally, Chris Graves says, I played Food Chain Magnate one time, and for whatever reason, I wasn't fond of it. Do you ever just get a bad first impression of a game? I don't think I would want to play it again, but at the same time, I don't think I'm giving the game a fair chance. For those who have played it more, does it seem like this game is solvable? It seems like there is a card or two that could just give you some extra turns every round. Again, I haven't played enough to know the strategies. So far, not a game for me. I think there are definitely some strong plays and some strong opening moves. I think it's kind of like chess in that way, right? But ultimately, it is so tactical in how are you responding to the board state? How are you responding to what milestone someone else has gotten? How are you responding to how people are pricing their goods? It is in no way solvable, but at the same time, it probably seems that way because if you're playing with a really strong player, it just seems like what they're doing is just incredible. And you're like, oh, well, if I just do that next time, I'll win. Well, no, because it worked for that game because, it dictated, the conditions dictated that course of play for the most part. And like I said, I think there are some strong opening moves, opening strategies, but I've played it very differently and have done very well in it, regardless of what strategies I'm employing, whether it's with new players or with even experienced players too.
Fair enough.
So
that's our Duke's double take of Food Chain Magnate. Again, goes from a 5 to a 5 for Sean. Goes from a 2 to a hypothetical 2. Still a hypothetical 2 for me. But actually does move from a 5 to a 6 for Derek Davis.
So Alex.
Yes, Sean?
What do a rat, a fox, and a sheep all have in common?
I don't know, because we don't know what the fox says, but we have a pretty good sense of the other two.
What does a rat say? They go...
Yeah.
Or like...
Yeah, that sounds... No, I liked your second one. Yeah.
That's a rat?
Yeah, good enough.
What does a sheep say?
Bah.
Okay.
Come on now.
But they're also all mammals. But that's not the point.
Yeah,
They're
not at all.
They're actually all brand new movement cards in the expansion for Arcane Wonders Onitama. Onitama Sensei's Path. Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, Alex, are you a fan of Onitama?
Love it. Love this game.
So it's kind of like a streamlined chess where you're moving some pieces, you're trying to capture your opponent's pieces, or get your sensei to the opposing sensei's spot, so to speak. And what's really cool is that you're using 5 of these movement cards every game, but you're kind of sharing these cards. So when you use a particular movement card, you now make it available for your opponent. And what's really cool is this is offering 16 brand new movement cards that you can shuffle in with the base movement cards to add a little bit more variety to your games of Onitama. So interested in this, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just saw a couple copies at Empire. Might go swing by and pick one up.
So if you're local, go and pick it up at Empire Board Game Library. Otherwise, pick it up at your own friendly local gaming store or some online store of your choice. Either way, go buy Sensei's Path from Arcane Wonders. All right, well, we're going to wrap up this episode 152, but before we do, we need to head on over to the Guild to see the rest of the top 6 for the nominees for Name of the Episode.
So, first up, Daniel Newman, very strong contender with this one. He had a couple of good ones.
I think these are all very strong contenders.
Yeah, we had a good crop of names this week for sure. Burgers and Prize. Yeah, very elegantly designed title there.
Delicious.
Yes, delicious indeed. Ben Van Brandt with Eyes on the Price. So it's interesting you had price and prize used in different ways, plays in different contexts.
Can I do one?
Yeah, go for it.
Let me do one here. I'm gonna do one.
Go for it.
Can I do one?
Uh-huh.
Just one? I just want to do one.
Yeah.
Just one. Okay. Chris Graves suggested Super Prize Me instead of Super Size Me, and this was kind of so Scott Sexton had suggested Super
Spiel Me.
Super Spiel Me.
Yeah.
Right.
And this was going to be my pick for the winner, but we'll talk about this in a second. We had a Schwazi off.
We had to.
We had to have a Schwazi off. And next up, Jake Bach with The Golden Spatula.
And by the way, as soon as he said that, my first thought was of Spatula City from UHF, and sure enough, someone posted the video to Spatula City, Spatula City!
Don't know it.
From UHF. You haven't seen UHF? Okay.
I actually have seen UHF.
Oh, it's one of the commercials they do. It's a Weird Al movie.
Oh, actually,
Spatula City, Spatula City!
Just haven't seen it in a very long time. And then finally, because you only said you wanted to do one.
Yeah, just the one.
Right? Rob Rouse with Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm winning it.
So, story here, Raquel has some AP issues, right? And so, for whatever reason, when she is like deep in the tank in her AP, she starts like randomly singing things because she gets like nervous and she starts singing. And one of the things she sings is that. I'm loving it. Ba 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 ba. The whole thing. It's really weird.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super strange.
All right. So in my ongoing feud with Steve O'Rourke, my bitter rival and nemesis, one day, Name Father, we'll square off for the future of the world. Am I the villain here, or am I not the villain?
Well,
am I the hero?
I don't know what you are.
Okay. Well, that makes 2 of us.
I imagine like an 80s style or 70s style gang fight where you guys have to like take your left arm and like strap them together, and then you each get you haven't seen that?
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was initially with you on Happy Meal to Jahres.
Right off the bat, we were both like, yeah, this is it, hands down.
To me, it just like Super Prize Me just flowed a little better. Just flowed a little better to me and was also clever. So we ended up doing a best of 3 Schwazi off, and normally Schwazi is not a fan of Sean, and this was 2-0 in Sean's favor. So
yeah.
So Name Father, your biggest backer over here, Sean saved you. That is his 11th title.
Yeah.
11th. Almost doubled up on the next closest, I think, is there's a couple at 6 names, last I checked.
Steve, buddy, I'm doing all I can over here for you. I mean, this guy.
It was a good name. It was a good name.
It's a good name.
It is a good name.
It was your first pick.
It was my first pick.
And then that you remembered your boiling hatred for Steve O'Rourke.
Yes.
Just came to the surface.
Oh, at the worst possible time, I guess. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. 152. Happy Meal to Jahres. Happy Meal to Jahres to you, Sean.
And to you. Are you still upset that the Happy Salmon didn't win?
I am really upset about that. That was the most upset of the Dice Tower Awards things I was upset about.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's too bad. All right, well, that's going to do it. Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
Hail Hydra, everybody. Peace.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on July 15th, 2017. Our theme music is provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com, and for all the latest in the Duchy, go to dukesofdice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Tasty Minstrel Games and Arcane Wonders. You can check out all their awesome titles at playtmg.com and arcanewonders.com. We'll see you back here in 1 week. Until then, game on!